The U.S. Federal Reserve kicks off its two-day monetary policy meeting on Tuesday amid expectations that it will push through a rate increase. But how will the interest rate decision in the U.S. affect markets here in Korea? Hwang Ji-hye reports.
Expectations that the U.S. Federal Reserve will raise its key interest rate spiked after Fed Chair Janet Yellen gave an unusually clear signal about the coming decision, making reference to the country's solid job growth.
The committee will evaluate whether employment and inflation are continuing to evolve in line with these expectations, in which case a further adjustment of the federal funds rate would likely be appropriate.
In December last year, the U.S. Central Bank raised its benchmark rate for the second time in a decade to a range of 0.5% to 0.75% and predicted 3 more increases this year. Market analysts say the Fed is likely to stick to that forecast.
If the economic figures in the U.S. improve, or if Trump administration's policies to increase inflation through a larger fiscal deficit strengthen, 3 rate increases seem possible.
And with the Fed widely anticipated to hike rates, the Bank of Korea is in a tight spot as the central bank still faces pressure to lower Korea's key rate to rev up an economy stifled by sluggish domestic demand.
China's retaliatory actions against the THAAD missile defense system stand as another threat to the country's recovery momentum, which has gotten a boost from robust exports thanks to growing demand in the U.S. and Europe. However, analysts say it won't be easy for the Bank of Korea to move in the opposite direction of the Federal Reserve.
We continue to expect no rate change throughout this year, and rather a hike by mid-2018.
With that, there are growing concerns here in Korea over household debt levels that have continued to rise to new record highs. An interest rate hike would mean a rise in commercial interest rates, which would in turn put a heavier debt burden on borrowers, possibly putting a further dent in domestic consumption and making it harder for the country to reach the BOK's 2.5% growth projection for this year. Hwang Ji-hye, Arirang News.